Hello, my name is Joe Hacken. You know me from my videos. This particular segment is on abortion. To begin with, going back to 1962 and 63. The United States Supreme Court ruled that prayer and the reading of the Bible were unconstitutional in the public schools. They said that there should be a separation of church and state. They actually took that idea from a letter Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Association in 1802, which they used towards enacting a law stating that there should be separation of church and state. That wasn't originally not in the First Amendment. This is talking about the First Amendment. Religious freedom was talked about, and they began to take away that religious freedom by starting in the schools back in the year 62 and 63. They made this an amendment to the Constitution. They made up a constitutional clause that said that there should be a separation of church and state, but that's not the original Constitution. Therefore, prayer and the reading of the Bible in the public school was banned. It was made law on June 17, 1963, and after this enactment by the Supreme Court, the Wall Street Journal remarked, atheism was now the one belief to which the state's power will extend its protection. From that date, June 1963, prayer and reading of the Bible were banned and no longer could be part of any school activity. Today, the abortion battle rages as fierce as ever, especially in the political world where it has been held since 1973, with conservative and liberal, anti-abortionist / pro-life, and pro-abortionist / pro-choice groups fiercely ripping each other apart in an unbelievable cold war of words that is anything but cold. It has been such a miserable standoff not getting anywhere with politicians. I believe that they should get this out of the political arena and into the common people's hands, since it is predominantly the common people who are upset with this kind of problem anyway, and let them field the debate. A woman may argue, why should she keep the pregnancy? I did not want the baby raised for it. Isn't it my body? Shouldn't I do with my body what I want with it? Why can't I terminate this pregnancy? A woman may cry out that a man raped and ravaged her body and got her pregnant, and for that reason exclaim, why should she keep the pregnancy? While the arguments that go back and forth still rage, we have a tendency to forget that there is someone hurting who really needs help in figuring out the plight of their circumstances. There are so many needs that a woman in her situation has that push her towards the belief that she has not much discourse but to turn to abortion for that answer. But in truth, there is much out there to help her. If the woman is kept from having abortion, there are plenty of loving and caring people and agencies who can help a woman in her time of need, such as plenty who are willing to adopt a child, even children who came into the world through rape or incest. If there are any who came out of the woman as a Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or some other handicapped child like them, there are plenty who will want any child like that also. We really should be sympathetic and compassionate towards a woman and a man in their situation. The situation is not an easy one to handle. The pregnancy may, after all, be not because of some irresponsibility, indifference, or selfishness on their part. Indeed, there are many cases in which it was the irresponsibility, indifference, and selfishness of the person or couple's act. In this case, we should be very angry. This anger, however, should be directed into the proper channel. Each and every one of us, including a child of rape, incest, Down syndrome child, or any other child that has a handicap, has been created in the image of God. He or she has a right to live because they have been created by a loving God to live a full life, just like you who are living a full life have a right to live as well. It is because God gave us that right. God has given that right to that child within the woman also. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 28 says, "And God said, let us make man in our image, and in our likeness. So God created man in his own image, and in the image of God he created them, male and female. He created. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over all the earth. So God has created all of us in his image, and since God loves and cares for all he has created, should we all love and care also for all that he has created and made? God is love, and we are made in his image. If God is love, and we are made in his image, shouldn't we so love all he has created? Excuse me again. I have a dog, and my dog hair is just flying over. We are, after all, reflections of his love, even then. As created beings, shouldn't we exercise good stewardship and proper rule over all the earth? As God here in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 to 28 so states. Let me go through this so you get a good indication of this is great. Genesis chapter 1. Bear with it, it's practically the whole chapter. On the first day, God said, let there be light, and there was light. There's a purpose in what I'm saying. Quoting. On the first day, God said, let there be light, and there was light. God called the light day, the darkness he called night. He called the light good. On the second day, God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. God made the expanse and separated the waters which were below the expanse, and the waters which were above the expanse under the sun. God called the expanse heaven. On the third day, then God said, let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Let there be vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees on the earth. Brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed after their kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in them after their kind. And God saw that it was good. On the fourth day, God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens. Excuse me. Heavens to give light on the earth, and it was so. God made the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to govern the day and the night, to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. On the fifth day, God said, let the waters teem with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth in the open expanse of the heavens. God created the great sea, monsters, and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm after their kind, and every winged bird after its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply the earth. On the sixth day, God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures after their kind, cattle and creeping things, and beasts of the earth after their kind. And it was so. God made the beasts of the earth after their kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creeps on the ground after its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. And let them rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Excuse me. God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and rule over the fish in the sea, and over the birds in the sky, and over every living thing that moves on earth. Then God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of the earth, and every tree which has fruit yielding seed shall be food for you, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird in the sky, and to everything that moves on earth, which has life, I have given every green plant for food in your son. So after God made man, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, we read, this is after God made man. God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. talking about all the other parts of the creation was good. When we came to man, he said, very good. Before God created mankind, he created the heavens, the earth, the seas, and all other things that live in them, and said that it is good. But after he created man, he said that it's very good. By creating man after the rest of creation and proclaiming the creation of man to be very good, and by giving the man the task of subduing and ruling over his creation, God indicated that mankind was the crown of all his creation and a superior being over all of it. When we gaze upon or study creation, we say how beautiful it is. But when we study the human body, we say, wow, woo! Psalm 139, verse 13 to 16. For you, God, formed my inward part. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, for my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you, God, when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. Psalm 139, verse 13 to 16 is talking about a baby in his or her mother's womb. When a woman conceives an embryo in her womb, God begins to skillfully make this child. Even though man cannot see what is going on within this egg, the creator of this zygote, as it is called, does see this unformed substance. In other words, someone brought up to me and said that, oh, when a woman conceives, they conceive a female. And then later on, it could keep being a female or turn into man. Not so. Man cannot see what is wrought in the depths of the earth, in the mother's womb, that particular time. No. But God said in Genesis, he made man, male and female. He in secret creates this human life. He follows the blueprint of what this person is meant to be. God's blueprint is in the mind of God. That is his book. God does not need a book to be written for him that he would need to get reference from. Opposite of man, he needs one written for him. This book is the Bible. Science is not to be the reference for truth. God is, for he has created it. Furthermore, he has given us his word, the Bible, to teach us truth. That is the beginning reference point. Now, in keeping with our reference point, the Bible, we read in the Bible, Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. Excuse me. Now, the man had relations with his wife Eve, and she conceived, and gave birth to Cain. And she said, I have gotten a man-child with the help of the Lord. See, at conception, it was going to be a man. He created the male. Because she was the beginning of all creation. He, she, and Adam. And when she gave birth to Cain, she said she conceived it. She conceived man, a man-child, with the help of the Lord. Taken with Psalm 139, verse 13 to 16. For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you for the fearfully and wonderfully made. See, the wife knew that this was going to be a man, and it was conceived, and it was a man. I praise you for fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Much of the arguments about abortion center around the fetus, from the time the unborn child began to be called a fetus, up until the time that the woman gives birth. There is an argument that gets thrown into the argument on abortion, and that is the right to abort the newly formed embryo. It has to do with what they call the abortion pill or morning antidote. This is a quick and easy way to abort the embryo or egg. You hear of the argument for embryonic stem cells. They say these will be a miracle cure for all kinds of diseases of human life, but they will have to abort fetuses in order to get these embryonic stem cells. This, they say, will justify them aborting the fetus. But I say the end does not justify the means. The Bible proves that this is a human baby from the point of conception to the time of the baby's birth. Genesis chapter 4, verse 1 in Psalm 149. Some argue that when a mother's life is in danger, abortion should be allowed. But should she be able to abort this child? Should this be left up to the mother? Should it be left to one's conscience? Is it justified? Who should live, mother or child, and who has the right to decide these things? Ordained, A, to establish or order by appointment, decree or law. B, predestined, foreordained. From conception to birth, straight through its development. From the fetus stage on through the birth process. From conception to birth, this is the child, and God himself behind it all, seeing it through. When the sperm cell meets the egg cell and they attach themselves to the woman's uterus, it becomes what is called a zygote, of which the process of forming a human being begins. It is called an embryo up to the end of 8 weeks of development, when all organs of the unborn baby begin to form. After this period of time, it begins to be called a fetus. According to man's law, the deliberate, unjustified killing of an innocent person is murder. It is written on the conscience of men and by God himself. God commanded that to murder is sin. God's sixth commandment is, thou shalt not murder. Conscience either acquits or condemns you. It may scare you or comfort you. Romans chapter 2, verse 15. They show that the requirements of the law are written on their hearts, their consciences also bearing witness, and their thoughts sometimes accusing them, and at other times even offending them. But the conscience and heart can be deceiving. You cannot fully trust it. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13. Be encouraged, but encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9. The heart is deceitful above all else and desperately wicked, says the Lord. How many murders are committed by those who have no conscience? According to investigators and prosecutors, they would say that the murderers have no conscience. There are those who murder that believe they are justified in killing the victims. There are those who commit murders who believe that they have a good conscience because they were saving themselves. These are those who are hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Ultimately, God is the true judge of our hearts and consciences. Romans chapter 2, verse 16. In the day when, according to my gospel, God will judge the secrets of men through Jesus Christ. We can only judge righteously and justly on our consciences and on our actions by the Spirit of truth and in God's word, the Bible. John chapter 14, verse 16 to 17, and John chapter 16, verse 13. The Spirit of God and his word is an advocate, guide, and helper. Psalm 119, verse 105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Deep down into one's very soul, there is where the absolute truth lies, for God put it there. The children that are born out of incest and rape, babies that are born mongoloid or with some other type of handicap, will all in one accord exclaim one day that yes, we too are fearfully and wonderfully made. But they are fearfully and wonderfully made too. Your works are wonderful, and my soul knows it very well. They will say that too. It is you, God, for you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb, and I will give thanks to you for life. As Psalm 139, 13, 14 says, for you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. The church, for the most part, has not pleased the Lord in the serving and coming to rescue and help of the unborn. It has failed, for the most part, to take the character and example of the Lord Jesus Christ to the world. The murder of babies in mother's womb continues to plague us. Philippians chapter 2, verse 1 to 8 says this. If you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, with any comfort from his love, with any common sharing in the Spirit, with any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of one mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who, being very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. He came so that many may live who were doomed to die. This righteous and holy one, being without sin, did not deserve to die, for the one who sins is the one who will die. Ezekiel 18:20. He was without sin. Death is the penalty of sin. The wages of sin is death, Romans 6:23. But yet he willingly died so that they may have life. All those who put their faith and trust in him. Those that have put their faith and trust in him must, like him, go and deliver them who will be subject to the same fate as the others. As far as the question of the mother's life being in danger, nobody but the mother, father, and family should make that decision in the peace they should make. The mother may want to follow the example of Jesus Christ and decide to die for her child. This would, of course, be a tremendously difficult decision to make, but this decision is to be made between her and her family and God alone. My plumber was a raped baby. Yes. You should see him now. He has a wife and children. He's a great plumber and a wonderful husband and father. Thank you. Tune into this. This ends the portion of abortion. It's 11:23 and 12:16. I hope you enjoyed it and you'll consider it. If you're on the other side of things, I hope you consider the child in the mother's womb as a human being. Born in conception, male or female, doesn't begin. There's no female, and then all of a sudden, well, one time in the womb it becomes a man. They were created male and female. And Eve proclaimed that she conceived a man child. So this conception of a man will be man because he will grow up to be man. So thank you for this time. I hope you tune into my other videos. Goodbye for now. My name is Joe Hackey. Go to YouTube, JoeHakun. You can go to Facebook. You can go to Google. You can go to Twitter. And I appreciate your comments. Thank you.